As you're all relaxing in the tavern, enjoying food, drink, and a much-needed rest after your last venture into the wilds, the ground starts to rumble. It starts slowly at first, almost like it isn't happening, but it quickly grows over the next several seconds to the point where everyone in the tavern seems to have noticed this as well. As you're looking around trying to figure out what the source of this could be, it's quickly revealed to you as a large, armor-plated creature bursts through the ground. Hello, and welcome to Tuna's Tales. This time on Pondering Monsters, we'll be covering the Bulette. Bulette? Bullet? However you want to pronounce it, it's a land shark, and it's hungry. Not only is it hungry, but it also seems that several of them are keyed in directly to your party's location, and as long as your party stays on the ground, the Bulettes will be able to find them. This is what I like to call puzzle combat. Yes, there will be combat with these creatures, but since the Bulettes don't have anything particularly special about them, we can use the puzzle aspect here to add a little something extra to all of this. If the party figures it out, then great, they can use the answer to potentially turn things around for themselves. So, enough burrowing around the bush on this one. Let's see what this encounter's all about. This type of encounter hinges on your party finding an item. They can find it however you want, be it laying in the middle of the road, in a dungeon, for sale in a shop somewhere, doesn't matter. Additionally, it can be any item, but should be something that the party would want to keep on their person. A jeweled dagger, a finely crafted sword, a mysterious crystal orb, whatever would work best for the party. This item is pretty simple, however, it's not quite what it seems. There's some magic applied to it that makes it so wherever the item goes, Bulettes are sure to follow. This allows it to act as a homing beacon for said Bulettes, and will constantly attract them to the party as long as the party keeps this item. This is great because it gives you a fairly straightforward, reoccurring combat that you can put in front of your party whenever you feel like it. Plus, it keeps them on their toes too. Should the party figure out that the item is what's causing them trouble, then they can take steps to avoid it in the future, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. For now, let's focus in on this item. We can call it the Earthen Beacon. This item appears as a +1 spell focus, +1 weapon, or other item of the DM's choice. When picked up by someone, it becomes magically linked, not attuned, to them until dispelled. While this item is linked to an individual, and they remain in contact with the ground, the individual constantly attracts all Bulettes in the area to their location. While this signal is active, Bulettes travel towards and attack anyone in the area. A casting of Identify does not reveal the Bulette attracting properties of this item, but will tell the caster that there is some type of magic that is obscuring more information about it. This item has an AC of 15 and 10 hit points. If destroyed, the Bulettes will stop chasing it. As the description stated, destroying the item will stop attracting Bulettes, so if the party destroys it, then no more encounters. Now that we know the general idea behind this encounter, and have a magic item for the party to find to trigger it all, let's start asking some questions. We have an encounter idea and a magic item to go with it now, so just what questions does this raise that should be answered before we try to run anything? For this encounter, I'll be looking at the following. What if the party doesn't take the item? What if the party tries to sell or abandon the item? What if the party tries to abuse the item? And what ways could the party try to circumvent the item's effects? I'm sure you can come up with more than just those 4 questions, but I'll be starting with those, as to me those are the most important ones to answer. So, let's see what answers we can come up with. With the way that the item is written up, all the party really needs to do is touch it and they become magically linked to it. While linked, they attract Bulettes. This means that if the party leaves the item behind, then they're just going to get chased by Bulettes until they either go back and get the item, or someone else comes along and picks it up. If you really wanted them to keep the item, then simply say that the magical link allows the item to be teleported into the pack of the individual who touched it originally. If you include a perception check to notice this, then that can also serve as a clue that there's something odd about this item. For this question, we need to keep question 1 in mind. If the party decides to abandon the item, then you can simply apply the teleport effect or do the whole party gets chased by Bulettes until they go and retrieve the item again option. Either one of those should cover just leaving the item by the side of the road. If the party chooses to sell the item, however, then, well, the shopkeeper would have been the last person to touch the item, right? Maybe next time the party passes through town, the shop is destroyed. If you really wanted to, you could have the shopkeeper survive the Bulette attacks and know that things got weird after the party last passed through. This means that the next time the shopkeeper sees the party, they start to blame them for the run of bad luck or try to give the item back. This again tells the party that there's something wrong here and potentially gives them a bit of a small town reputation for causing trouble that they have to work to undo. There are many ways that this item could be a headache to DMs if it's in the wrong hands. If you run a game that has XP leveling as opposed to milestone, then your players might get the idea to try an XP farm with it. Or they might want to hold a town hostage for a ransom, or cheese a boss battle by summoning Bulettes into the middle of it. Whatever the issue is, you can usually find the answer by looking at the consequences to a character's actions. If it's an XP farm, then there's too many Bulettes and the party doesn't know where they're coming from. They're going to get tired eventually. If they hold the town hostage, then the King's Guard are sent to deal with these ne'er-do-wells and return the town to the people. And if it's summoning Bulettes into a boss battle, since when can the party summon the Bulettes? That's up to the DM to decide. But the easiest solution to any issue with this, and one that should work in any scenario, is to simply talk with your players. If they push back, argue too much, or put up a fight over this, then I'm sorry. They're not being very polite, thoughtful, sportsmanlike players, and that might be another issue to bring up outside of the game. If, however, you have a table that is invested in a group storytelling game and making it fun for everyone, DMs included, then they should understand. Well, based on how this item is worded, as long as they aren't in contact with the ground, then the Bulettes won't be able to find them. But not every character can stay off the ground indefinitely. At some point, they're going to have to touch grass. When they do, Bulettes appear. You could even try and run it so that the BBEG of your campaign learns about this and decides to have their underlings try and drag the character in question down to the ground. This can be done with things like grappling, nets, a second level spell like Earthbind, or whatever else you can think of. If none of that works, or it's becoming too much of a pain to manage, then at least the item isn't terribly powerful on its own. You have a player putting all of this time and effort into a kind of meh magic item. If they want to do that, then okay. A little weird, but okay. If all else fails, you can always just talk to the player in question. Talking is almost always going to be the fastest way to solve any issue or problem at a table. So, with the outline outlined and the questions questioned, let's start tying this together. As you're all traveling down the road, you see a bag sticking out of the bushes, barely hidden. Isrissa, as you open the bag and inspect the contents, you find a perfectly spherical crystal orb. Seems to be giving off a little bit of a magical aura. With that, the party now has the item, an orb in this case, in their possession, and we can continue on with the session as normal. In fact, let's skip forward to later the same evening as the party is getting ready to take a long rest. As you're all resting through the night, you feel the ground beneath your feet begin to rumble. As you're looking around for a source for this, the earth erupts, sending rocks and dirt showering down over your camp. A large, armor-plated creature is just visible through the dust, and it seems focused on you, Isrissa. Roll initiative. At this point, the party has had a combat during their long rest. Depending on how rough of a day they've had, you can safely use just one Bulette, or, if they're well rested, feel free to use two. The goal here isn't to harm or seriously challenge the party, just to give them a taste of what's to come. Additionally, the line that the creature is focused in on the character that picked up the item should serve as a good initial hint that something's up. If they don't make the connection, then oh well, they'll get more chances. From this point on, whenever you as the DM feel like it, you can throw a couple Bulettes at the party. You have a perfectly good reason to, and they have a thing they need to figure out now because of it. Eventually things will reach a point where they either do figure it out, or they just start trying things to see what sticks. If you want to drop some hints for them along the way, feel free to. Things like the Bulettes always knowing where the character that has the item is, constantly focusing that character in combat, or even just trying to take the pack where the item is stored, if you want to be really blunt about it, are all good options. Now, what if you have a stronger party? Well, you can always just add in more Bulettes. If we follow the CR for the Bulette to the letter, not a great measure, but it's a place to start, then we can see that for a party of 5 at 5th level, 1 Bulette is an easy encounter and 2 is a hard encounter. For a party of 5 at 10th level, 2 Bulettes are easy and 3 are hard. And for a party of 5 at 15th level, 4 Bulettes are a medium encounter. Now, I'm using the CR for Bulettes here to get a baseline for this encounter. Normally, I wouldn't follow it to the letter. I would make adjustments for how well I know my party, and I suggest that you do the same for yours. But if you need a starting point to see what kind of a challenge your players might be up against, then CR calculators are kind of a good place to start. If you want to make the Bulettes tougher without adding in more of them, then you can always increase their armor class and hit points to try and make them last longer in combat. Additionally, you could try adding in some tactics, like having the Bulettes breach the ground as part of a bite attack, similar to the way that great white sharks do when they hunt seals. If this attack hits, you can even add in some extra bludgeoning damage to account for the impact force. And, since the party can't necessarily see this attack coming, you can make the case that the Bulettes should have advantage on this attack for being an unseen attacker. You could give them a simple multi-attack so that they can use their bite a couple of times on a turn. You could take a claw attack from another creature and use it here, or just give them a swallow attack so that they can swallow a medium or smaller creature. Point being, you have options, and if you need more of a challenge, then by all means, crank that difficulty enough to make it fun for your table. With that, you now have a reason to play the Jaws theme whenever you want during your sessions. For an added layer of fun, after a few Bulette encounters, why not try just starting the music and seeing how long it takes your players to notice and piece it together. If you liked this encounter, please let me know by dropping a like. If you didn't, then feel free to let me know what I did wrong in the comments below. If you have a creature that you'd like to see covered in a future video, then I am open to suggestions, and if you're looking forward to the next one of these, then consider subscribing and doing that thing with the bell so that you can get notified when it comes out. Thanks for letting me talk at all of you, and until next time, keep pondering.